We're dealing today with the 2-pack range in dealing with spray cans. I'm going to be going through each of these steps. Now, if we've given you instruction from one of these points, just go down into the comment section below and you'll find a point that you want to pick it up from and go from there. Otherwise, as a summary, what the items we're dealing with today is we have your etching primer for your bare metal, you have your primer, you have your custom color that we made up, your 2-pack clear. We also have a tack cloth, we have lint-free cloths to go with your wax and grease remover. We have a block, or if you have another block that you decide to use, and a bit of wet and dry sandpaper. So I'm just going to go through that now in a bit more detail. So just before we get started and going through these different products and these processes, this is a lot of us is what we find best and what really works for us. So don't ignore the technical data sheets and always go through the technical data sheets if you're not sure. One of the other things you've got to really remember that's really important is that you make sure that you always do this and put this down, and then when you do that, and if you do that, you can't go wrong. Etching primer stage. I know we just started, but we'll get there. All right, in summary, looking about 1 to 2 light coats and allowing about 5 minutes between each coat, then leaving it about an hour to dry off before proceeding to the priming stage. But a couple of assumptions have been made, so just bear with me on this one. And that is, you've cleaned the panel well with wax and grease remover, and you're allowed sufficient time for that wax and grease remover to evaporate off. We also assume any of your rust, like your surface rust, etc., has been treated appropriately, and any of your repairs have been done as well. This particular etching primer, and with this product only, body filler doesn't stick too well to it, hence why we suggest you do your repairs first. I know it's not your standard practices with some of your other products. With this product, it's very important. Then we can put down your etching primer and move to your next stage, which is the priming stage. The priming stage. This 1K product is suitable for your 2-pack system. So if you're using a different primer, that's okay, just check your technical data sheets before you proceed. Otherwise, in summary for this 1K primer, just about 2 to 3 coats, allowing about 5 minutes between each coat. If you're wanting to put down more coats, that's okay. Maybe allowed about 10 minutes between each coat, then leave it an hour or 2 to dry off before sanding. Now, I like to wet sand this particular primer as I find I get a better result. Using 800 grit wet and dry, a bit of soapy water, I find I get a nicer finish. Otherwise, if you're wanting to dry sand it with 600, that's okay as well. If you find that you need to repeat the process, go for it as well. Otherwise, we're ready for the color. Application of the primer is important. You really want to get it nice and smooth and nice and even. And rather than try and apply it haphazardly and expecting a good result, it's important to make sure it goes on well. So spraying it on where it's too dry, you're going to find it quite difficult to sand. And if you apply it where there's a lot of runs, again, you're going to find it quite difficult to sand. We do make a couple of assumptions. Again, at this stage, we assume that the panel has been cleaned thoroughly with wax and grease remover. Any surfaces that you intend to prime, a bit of 400 grit wet and dry, or the equivalent to dry is about 320, 240 dry. Any body filler, 240, 320 dry is okay. Just make sure you don't get any of the body filler wet with water or any solvent. Otherwise, a few issues can arise. You can always ask us about that later on. Otherwise, any of your etching primer, a bit of 800 grit is dry is okay before putting the primer over the top of that. And hopefully you're ready then for your color stage. The color stage. So in summary, you're looking roughly 3 to 5 minutes between each coat, largely dependent on the weather, and then applying about 2 to 4 coats. And the difference between 2 and 4 can come down to the quality of paint. The better quality paint can cover it in less coats. And of course, if you're using a poor coverage color like a yellow, you might require a few extra coats to get that coverage. And then eggshelling off between each coat, which means it dries to like a matte kind of satin finish. And that of course does assume that you're applying the color correctly, then letting it dry off for 40 minutes before applying the 2-pack clear. Now we are dealing with a base coat system here, so there is a window that you need to put the clear coat on top. Otherwise it's not going to adhere properly, or you're going to get a delamination issue. So about 3 hours is the window for this particular base coat system that we use. Otherwise, if you're not sure, just check out your technical data sheets on that one. So a couple of assumptions have been made, and that is we assume that the primer has been sanded appropriately. bit of 800 grit wet and dry, or the equivalent 600 dry. And we also assume that because you are using the 2-pack system, that the panel, if you're spraying or doing a blend, has been heated appropriately, 1200 grit wet and dry, or use some kind of mattening agent just to matten the panel down. A couple of helpful things that you might find helpful is just before you're about to apply the colour, just use a tack cloth, just the surface tension, nice and light, just to remove any hair follicles or any dust that might have landed on the particular surface. A couple of other things that you might find helpful is that if you get an imperfection, like you get a fly that lands in there or a bit of dust again, just let that dry off for about 40 minutes, then using a bit of 800 grit wet and dry or 1200 grit wet and dry, spray a little bit of soapy water onto the sanding paper itself, then sand back that little imperfection, then wipe it off with a lint-free cloth. Give it a bit of a tack cloth down, and then you must blend the colour back on top. Especially if it's a metallic, you must blend the colour back on top, otherwise problems can arise. A couple of the don'ts do, and that is don't sand between coats. Especially again being a metallic, you'll find that the metallic flake will go funny on you. And don't wax and grease remover between coats. In fact, don't wax and grease remover after you apply the final coats, otherwise you can have issues there as well. And then you're ready for your 2-pack clear stage. 2K clear. So activate your 2-pack can of clear. If you're not sure on how to activate that, just look in below. There's a description, should be there on a previous video that we showed you how to activate a 2-pack can of clear. Otherwise, just in summary, you're looking at a light half coat and then 2 medium coats. Just your first coat is like a dust coat or a adhesion coat, goes sticky, takes about 5 minutes, and then you're looking at the further 2 coats for medium to wet coats. Again, tacky between coats, takes about 5 minutes. So that's a dust coat and 2 full coats, and then hopefully you're happy with the result. A couple of things that you need to know about the 2-pack clear. When you activate the 2-pack can, really got to use it on the spot. I know people put it in the fridge or leave it overnight and have a bit of success, but that's up to you. The other thing that we do assume that you are doing is that your base color has the window of opportunity for you to clear coat. So you're not leaving that base coat overnight, and you've got it in that window, normally about 3 hours, depending on your color. And then some of the things that I find helpful is just before you're about to use the 2-pack clear, is just give it a little blow down, a little tack cloth, just to, again, take off any dust or fallout. And another thing that you just got to be a little bit careful of is don't go having lunch between coats, like 20 minutes or half an hour, because otherwise the clear coat's starting to cure and it hits a sensitive period. So if you put some more clear over the top of that, it's all going to fry, and then I'll hear you screaming from here, so to speak, and really got to just be careful of that. Otherwise you have to start again. So you don't really want to do that. Hopefully you guys have found that summary of using the 2K aerosol system helpful, but we are using aerosols, so a lot of the stuff that we do in the industry we can't do with the aerosol, so we are quite limited in what is actually available. Otherwise, there's also a lot of information to be known, so in time we'll have a lot more videos, so if you look at the link below, hopefully we can add to it. Otherwise, like and subscribe, and these videos will hopefully come up when they're available. Otherwise, if there's any problems, guys, come see us, because sometimes trying to fix it without any guidance, you can quite make a bigger mess of it. So hopefully come in and we can rectify that issue. Otherwise, I'll see you in the shop sometime. We're done for the day. Woohoo! Cut, let's go home.
Yeah, make sure it's real glossy.